Jalil Bethea, who is headed to Miami. He is a combo guard. He's listed at 6'4", 170 on Miami's website. And definitely an interesting prospect. I know he's somebody that you had mentioned early in the offseason. I think Paige likes him. I've actually seen him twice now. I saw him twice last year at the Jordan Brand Classic, and then I saw him at the Hustle and Heart Classic, which is like an OTE event that they do every year. And that was at your old alma mater, Baruch, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I saw him last year. So where do you want to start with him, man?
That's actually a really good question. I don't really know where to start with him, but I did. Okay, maybe we could just, instead of, usually we go into like shooting, maybe we just go offense.
Okay.
How about that? Offense.
I think that's fair.
Broad stroke.
That's fair. I mean, I think the first thing that you have to bring up with him is that like he is a score first guy. Like he is a guy that is looking to put the ball in the hole. Like that is, I think, what his intrigue is. And it's where I think he feels most comfortable. I think his offense is interesting because while he is kind of one of these buckety guys, he isn't somebody who has to dominate the ball. Like he does play in a way where you go like, he's probably going to have high usage, but maybe it's not the most interesting part about him, but he's certainly like a guy where it's like he might be one of, the premier scorers coming into this pre-draft cycle before any college games are actually played.
Right. Corey, I wanted to say this. I liked what you said, right? It's something I wrote in my notes. Not much of a passing montage when it comes to Jalil Bethea, right? But something that I had on my mind was a couple years back, heading into his freshman season at Baylor, we had, I don't think it's a 1-for-1, but we were thinking, okay, Keontae George is going to be a bucket getter type of guy for Baylor, right? And he was, right? His credit, he was. However, he did show some playmaking chops that we were very surprised by, right? And that just continued to be a part of his game. And he now in the NBA, it seems like that's going to be a part of his game, right? He's going to be able to pass the ball. I'm not saying that this is a 1-for-1 thing, but the reason why I want to give Jalil a little bit of a runway here as he starts his freshman season in Miami, because what if he's a guy that ends up surprising us a little bit, right? What if he ends up showing some passing ability, some passing chops, some playmaking ability, and it might just kind of shock the world, right? Once again, I'm not saying it's definitely going to happen, but Keontae George came to mind because when I was watching Jalil, I had the same thought. He's a guy that likes to get his shot, but there's some stuff off ball that's interesting with him, right? Like I thought he had some really, really nifty cuts, right? Off ball, backdoor stuff. Just because the thing with Jalil that we need to mention, he's a really good athlete. This guy is fast as hell. Like in my notes, I was like, if you're side by side with him, you won't be side by side with him for long. He is the Noah Lyles right now, right? He has that type of like. I'm not saying he's an Olympic sprinter, but he's fast as hell. Is my point, right? And so there are some real athletic advantages that he has. And watching him off ball, there were a couple times then when he was able to use some of those athletic tools to his benefit off ball. And so I kind of want to start there, where I agree with you, Corey. The passing is not a marquee skill for him right now, but if you watch the tape, he's not like the worst passer either. And I'm wondering if potentially in a bigger role, higher volume role for Miami, maybe he gets an opportunity to show and grow into some of that passing ability.
Yeah, I had in my notes for his playmaking, I put capable, adequate pick and roll ball handler. He had a good assist to turnover ratio in the Nike EYBL. It was 1.3 to 1, which is, it's not like awesome, but it's better than having a negative assist to turnover ratio. I think he's more reactive than like anticipatory. Yeah. Like he's not going to manipulate a ball screen and, understand that if he takes a couple of dribbles to the right, the defense is going to shift over and then he can, hit a pass, skip pass, on the weak side of the court or anything like that. His passing is usually like after multiple dribbles when he doesn't have anything, or he gets like so deep in the paint that the help like over rotates so much that it leads to like, a drop off, or he's getting blitzed out of a pick and roll. But he's adequate. He's got potential. Like I think the Keontae George point is a really interesting one, actually. Like where we were like, like in the preseason scouting report we did on, we were like, we don't think he's a bad passer, but he's more of just like a one more, like he might make a quick decision, but it's not going to be anything crazy. And now, he looks like he could play some point guard, or he has been playing point guard the last couple of years, but like he looks like a legitimate point guard option. I still think ultimately he's better as a combo. And they still need to find him, a permanent backcourt partner in Utah. But like, I think Keontae is a good example. And like, that's kind of like what you would hope for, I think, if you were being optimistic with Jalil as a passer. I do think that the point you made about his cutting, I had that too, where he uses like the gravity of his ability to shoot to kind of take advantage and like slip back door. He had 20 dunks in the EYBL, which is good. He's like a very good athlete. He's creative in midair. So he has kind of, the 3-level scoring potential that you want to see. I mean, obviously he has like the deep bag. He's got a very strong handle. He's very like herky jerky and quick in his crossovers and how he's attacking. And he uses that. He can really create a lot of space. He's got the step backs. He's crafty in that regard, and he's creative with the ball in his hands. He can really separate and create advantages. I do question like how efficient is he going to become in that role when it's going to come down to like whether the shots are going to go in or whether they're not going to go in. Because I'm not like in love with his shot, like his form, and like seeing it in person. Like there are times where it just like looks super uncomfortable. He has that one motion push shot where it's beneficial in that it's like a little kid shooting on like a net that is too high for them. It allows you to have extended range, but it doesn't always allow you to have the best control in where you're going. He did shoot it well, but I've just seen like with my eyes where I go, all right, I just need to see it against like legit competition a little bit more often. I think that he's got like a floppy follow through on his shot where it sometimes that's why it's like a little inconsistent. His release point, I think, is low when it's like when somebody's contesting him. It's a little bit it's raised when he has more space, which is good. But I think that the fact that he can be that on or off ball guy is what makes him interesting as a shooter. Cause I think that he's actually, to me, I like his shot more when not only just like in catch and shoot scenarios, but like when he's shooting off movement. Cause I think he's actually like a legit movement shooter. Like, and he's comfortable shooting either direction. A lot of it's easier to shoot off movement when you're like, your momentum is carrying you to the left as a right-handed shooter because it's, easy to get into that one motion, but he's comfortable coming the other way. And like, I think at the next levels, he's going to be able to come out of like those corner zoom actions and either, if a defense tries to cut underneath because they're afraid of him attacking the rim, he's going to be able to shoot, open jumpers. And I think that's beneficial, or he is going to be able to get to the rim when they chase over. So, and again, in those actions, I think that's where you'll see like his playmaking pop a little bit, where he's causing the defense to collapse because he's getting into the teeth of the defense and he's drawing kickouts. So I think he's interesting in that regard. And that on-off ball stuff is super interesting but I do, if he's going to be taking a ton of tough shots, I want to know what the percentages are like, because he's in that weird tweener, size, like height, and then like also the weight. So it's like, there is potential for him to be like the Nick Smith kind of like, oh, you were a really good scorer before college, but like you're not really strong enough to handle the physicality. You're not really efficient enough to have the ball all the time. So what are we? Are we a 6-man? Are we a G League guy? Or does the shot really come around? And because he's, a lot more athletic than Nick Smith was, is there like Anthony Simons upside? So these are the questions that I have for Jalil Bethea, like coming into this season.
Yeah, No, Corey, I think all of your concerns are extremely fair. The only thing that I kind of wanted to say, not necessarily in his defense, it's more of something that I want to monitor with him. I felt like although he's 170 pounds, I'm really curious to see what he's going to weigh in when the season starts, just because I thought although he's on the lighter side, I thought his frame looked decent, where it
Mhm.
looked like he's going to be able to add a good amount of strength. And so I'm very curious to see what that offseason workout program in Miami does for him and where he ends up when the season starts. And if he can get up to 185, 190, that'll be really interesting, right? Obviously, that's a big increase in weight, but I think it's possible, especially at that age. And if that's all you're doing, it's very possible in my mind. A couple of things that I wanted to touch on: super long strides with him. And sometimes, like watching him, he kind of even reminded me about like a little more athletic, more shifty Isaiah Wong at times. Even the way that he was moving was kind of what came to mind at times. But like you
I was
said,
just thinking that name, dude. Maybe it's the
um,
Miami thing. I don't know.
maybe, but there's something there, right? I think it's the strides. I don't know what it is. I like the handle, like you said. In terms of, I did want to touch on his finishing because I thought he did a really good job, as we already mentioned, with the cutting. But I thought at times, like when he had the ball in his hands and he was attacking the rim, sometimes it felt like he was attacking the rim without a plan. There was a bit of a wildness to him that I didn't absolutely love. And I thought there were some opportunities where he could have leveraged his speed and his advantage creation stuff into opportunities for others that I thought he missed. And I'd like to see him grow into that. But to his credit, there were some really nice finishes, and there are times when he really uses his athleticism. I thought his left hand finishing was really solid.
Mm.
He That's something that he likes to do, is use his offhand. Also, a game that really stuck out to me was the one when he played against Carter Bryant. That game he went off and he had a really strong game. And Corey, he showed a lot of the things that you highlighted in terms of his strength, some movement shooting, some really nice catch and shoot shooting. Yeah, the only thing with me with his jumper, and you're the shot doctor here, but the one thing that I didn't love is with that push shot, at times his follow through, it seemed like he would shoot and then jerk his hand back like
Yeah.
immediately. And I thought it looked really weird. But the thing that I've taught myself and I learned from you over the years is that just because a shot looks weird, I can't let that completely color my evaluation of a prospect shooting. And that's the mistake that I made with Tyrese Halliburton years ago. And I still regret to this day, right? But just because a shot looks weird or looks different doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be bad. It's more of we have to see what this looks like over a larger sample size. And so with Bethea, I think, as you mentioned, Corey, it's going to be something that we're going to have to monitor and see how he shoots within the role that he's in for Miami. I think that'll be important, right? What type of role he's given, the type of equity he's given as an offensive player, and to see how he shoots within in that role, I think is going to be really interesting. And so I like everything that you said, Corey. There are real question marks, I think, that we're going to have to, monitor over time. But just the baseline skills that he has. Well, first, the baseline athleticism, I like. The frame, I like. The offensive mentality that he has, there's like a dog mentality to him that I really like. And it's just going to be a matter of how does he fine tune everything during his freshman season is going to be something for us to watch.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think his finishing, talking about how he can be out of control sometimes, spot on. I think he has really good strides when he's like driving in the hoop. But sometimes he leaves his feet like really early, and because he's so athletic and he's like good at those extension finishes, like you said, with either hand, like the left hand finishing, which one of the prospects we're going to talk about today, not so much, but Jalil Bethea like has that left hand finish with the extension. But sometimes when he leaves his feet so early, he gets himself in mid-air no man's land, and it looks like he hits the floor hard, and it's like it's like the pole vaulter that didn't make it over the the bar. So a lot of Olympics references today. We're crushing this. Yeah. So, but he definitely needs to get stronger too. I mean, listed at 170 on the team website, doesn't make you super excited. And when I saw him, I mean, the Jordan Brand Classic was a few months ago, but He looked skinny still.
Yeah.
So, and look, he's young. He's not going to put on 15 pounds of muscle in a year and whatever. Like, he'll get stronger. How strong can he get? How much weight can he put on? Can he get to 190? With these guys, I think it's a lot of times it's just hard because they're so exciting in high school when they have all of this on-ball usage, and sometimes even in college. But it's just like when you're in that 6'3", 6'4", but you're more of a scorer than a playmaker, and you're a little light. It's hard if you're not going to be super efficient, and that's really what I'm going to be looking for. Is like, can he be a super efficient guy who's just like a legitimate shot maker? Because if so, then there's a real chance that he could be like a good starter in the league. But at the same time, it's like that bar is so high. I mean, like people are questioning like, oh, are the Blazers going to start Anthony Simons with Shaden Sharp and Scoot Henderson? And that dude is like a legit
best version of this
25 point per game scorer. So it's hard with these guys, but he's interesting. And, I mean, Miami needs some interesting guys. We liked watching Keyshawn George last year, but
nobody else.
They need some fun. They need some fun this year after last year. Touching on his defense quickly, what did you think of him defensively?
So, Corey, this is something that I wrote down. Like, we say this every year, every damn year, but high school defense is the hardest thing to evaluate on planet Earth. It's really hard, especially if we're looking at it through the lens of how does this extrapolate or develop on the NBA level. It's really hard to tell. So I'll just write I'll just say from what I wrote. Just not offensive was what I wrote at times. Like, I thought it was okay. I thought there were some things to be so, like, like his offense, I thought there were times where defensively even it felt like he was playing without a plan at times. But once again, like, I don't want to freak out on that or even like hold that against him because high school defense is so hard. So anyway, the main gist of my defensive scouting report with him is wait and see. Because I didn't want to make any hard judgments on it because there were a lot of things I did not like and I don't want to hold it against him too hard. So
yeah, I put I thought he moves well laterally. Good at flipping his hips. I think when he's like really engaged, takes away space, and he uses his length. And I think that's important, especially when he might not have the strength to defend more physical guys. And I think that's a legit worry, like guarding up for him. But like if you're going to guard guys that are maybe a little stronger, you definitely want to like take away space and have active hands and make them work instead of letting them operate, dictate the possession. Just like with his offense where he's like herky jerky, I think his feet can be a little fidgety. But typically, I thought he played with good energy. When he sees a screen, he's good at like stepping over it early so he doesn't get hammered by it. Because when he does get hit with a screen, he's not good at getting through it right now. And again, I think that comes back to his strength. I think guard to guard, he'll be switchable. Like he'll be able to guard ones and twos and maybe some like smaller threes, like more finesse based. But that's like the optimistic him being a three position defender right now. A guy like this, like if he can be adequate defensively, which I think he has the tools to be, which is just like wanting to guard and doing it like possession by possession consistently, then if his offense is good enough, that makes him a really intriguing player. If he's going to be a complete zero, then it's like if your offense isn't special, then he's like a second rounder. So that's kind of the conundrum with these guys, but I think he'll be adequate. I mean, look, he's a freshman. He's in a good conference. He's light. He's going to struggle at times, but like, can you see the potential there with him? So we'll see. That's what's interesting. Do you have like a range where you think you're going to have him?
I was thinking if like where I'm going to have him in the at the start of the season
into the year.
Yeah, I was thinking like potentially late lottery, 14, 17, that range was where I was thinking. But of course, who knows?
Of course. I mean, this is throwing darts at a board
I know.
right now. Yeah, I'll probably have him. I'm going to have him in like the 22 to 25 range to come in to the year. I think when I saw him, the 2 times I saw him, I just wasn't really like blown away.
Got it.
It didn't like stand out. Like when I saw him in the Hustle and Heart Classic, it was the Carter Knox show. Like I was like, oh my God. And then the Jordan Brand Classic. I mean, it was like Cooper Flagg and, you know, all those guys. So yeah, Dylan Harper put on an absolute show. So, you know, like Derek Queen continued to be like the best player every time he was on the floor, which is a theme from every time I've seen him. Liam McNeely, it was loaded. So he just didn't really stand out, which part of me was like, it's hard for everyone to stand out, you know, especially like, you know, Dylan Harper, Brooklyn, he's from the tri-state area. Yeah. He was coming at Cooper to put on a show. Like, you know, it's hard in those kind of scenarios to really like have it be like a standout showing in those kind of situations. Right. But yeah, in person, I just wasn't like blown away by any means, but he's good. He's interesting. And this is a deep class. So this, you know, having somebody in the lottery in this class or having somebody even in the 20s in this class is different, like what we were accustomed in 2024. Right. So yeah, he's interesting. I'm excited to watch him in Miami.